What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy here, ACG Afro Car Guy. If it's the first time swinging by, go ahead and stop, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon so you can get notified on these videos, and when you drop, let's jump straight into this week's video. So this is going to be another non-specific, it's kind of car related in the essence, but not directly. More of my aviation endeavors. We are going to be starting a Continental flat 6 turbocharged airplane engine. This engine is pulled directly from, I don't know specifically what it's pulled from. I'm sure I can do the research on the aspect of it, but I want to get this video out. But this is a direct airplane engine. It is, in relation to a car engine, you kind of put you in the mindset of a Porsche motor, since most Porsche motors, or you could just say the GT86 has a flat configuration. So in most recip, I gotta break these down for you. So recip airplanes or recip engines are pretty much engines that operate the same as they would inside of a car. Most airplane engines do come in a flat configuration. So that's why this one's gonna be a flat 6, but you do have like flat 4s. And of course it begins to escalate to all type of other configurations. But in this exact setup is a flat 6. The turbocharger in this essence is not used to create more power. It's used to compensate for the lack of air, or I guess that is the word. It's to compensate for the lack of air at super high altitudes, where if it wasn't turbocharged, the plane would pretty much suffocate because it's not getting enough fuel. It's not getting the proper air fuel mixture going at that point. But that doesn't take away the aspect that the turbocharger still adds a craziness aspect to this, because it's like this motor creates 310 horsepower, I would like to say. Now, from a car aspect, that doesn't seem like a lot, but then you have to think it's just 310 raw horsepower. 310 horsepower right in front of you type of horsepower, without no parasitic loss from like a transmission or a drive shaft. It's right there, ready for use. Okay, and again, this is not even including the turbocharger aspect of this flat 6 configuration. So when you add the 310 raw horsepower in a prop that's about the size of a small child, you kind of see where things can get real sketchy and real hectic very quickly if you don't know what you're doing. But luckily we're in a school that teaches us how to do all the proper stuff, you know, the who wants to get chopped in half, right? So upon startup, we go over a lot of the basic things that pretty much can translate into starting an actual airplane engine. And excuse my terminology if it's pretty cut and dry. I guess I am trying to keep it somewhat simple for everyone to just grasp really quickly. But as far as the beginning of the video, we go through the startup situation, and that's pretty much us running through all of the procedures as far as like air fuel mixture, the prop angle, manifold pressure, things like that. Making sure the turbocharger wastegate is closed, so we're not building a lot of boost, or not building really any boost while we're on the ground, because the last thing we want is the plane or the configuration we're sitting on to lurch forward. I can't really give you the exact number of the amount of thrust this thing is able to produce, but to put you in aspect, or put your mind in the right perception, this configuration is able to creep a 4,000 to 5,000 pound forklift that's been locked in place by concrete bricks. That picture's been painted. Now in this instance, this has been dialed down, obviously, because students will be using it for their own comprehensive learning situations. So other than it being strapped to a concrete pole behind us and chalked down, I don't think we've seen the full capabilities of this engine, and I don't think we would want to see the full capabilities of this engine. Upon startup, we go through a lot of the startup procedures that I would like to say can still be used to start up an actual airplane engine. That doesn't mean you can actually fly. It means you can start up an engine. I mean, taking off probably isn't the hard part. I think it's landing that's the issue. So at this point, my instructor is pretty much walking me through all the aspects of throttle control, air fuel mixture ratio, at this point, we're trying to lock down a specific RPM we want the propeller to hover at or idle at. I believe it was about 2,500 RPMs. And like I said, keep in mind, this is still enough thrust to pull a single-seater airplane almost 200 miles an hour through the air. So let that sink in too. I think the hard part, or the sketchy part, was obviously the fact that I had to control this unhinged airplane engine pretty respectfully, I guess you can say, because it's quite obvious things go real sideways real quick if you aren't observant of what you're doing, like upon my initial startup of the engine. At this point, we are running a Magneto check on the right side of the engine. On this engine, there's pretty much we turned off half the engine on one side, and then we rotated to another side. And this is pretty much done in redundancy, so if you were to lose power upon the engine, you're not dead in the sky. You can still fly with just one source of power, if that makes sense, charging the spark plugs. And again, forgive all my excessive, blatant words or my unknowing terminology. I'm just shooting at it, So at this point, he wants us to get the prop up to a certain RPM rating. We're watching things like cylinder head temp, stuff like that. And then he wants me to hold it there. I can't remember precisely why we wanted to get it up to such a high RPM. I think he just wanted to see the gradual increase of manifold pressure. When I say manifold pressure, it's pretty much the plane's brain telling it that a certain amount of air is being displaced versus the pressure outside of it. I think that tracks. And I said the higher an airplane gets in the sky, the less pressure that is on it, which is why the turbocharger is added to compensate for the lack of air that the plane can't really get, since there's less air the higher in the atmosphere we get. So at this point, we're pretty much going through the shutdown procedures, or pretty much trying to turn it off. At this point, we just ground the Magneto, and the Magneto, like I said, is the power source for the engine. At that point, we'll make sure the throttle is, I believe, pulled out. Yeah. You want to make sure the throttle's pulled out. So at that point, it's like you leaving the car with the gas pushed all the way down versus not at all. Last thing you want to do is start it up and it's already at full throttle. Actually, no, I take that back. We ground the Magneto, and we also want to make sure we pretty much starve the engine of fuel. And starving an engine of fuel pretty much cuts the power as well. At that point, I believe we turn off the Magnetos to make sure there's no more power being sent while the engine's off, in its essence. So yeah, that was absolutely terrifying, because like I said, keep in mind, this is an open prop situation with the rawness of 300 turbocharged horses. Things could get really sketchy, and this is just one of like several of the contraptions they have that are able to show you what these aircraft are capable of. Because like I said, keep in mind, this is a piece of machinery that's capable of pulling an object between 2,000 to 3,000 pounds, give or take, almost 200 miles an hour through the air with nothing more than just shoving air in one direction. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this quick aviation stepping into that aspect of my career. If you have any questions about it, feel free to comment below, message me. I'll be happy to answer. Like I said, this isn't the most in-depth video, but it's still something that for those who are curious about what makes these things do what they do and what do I do outside of car stuff. So yeah, that'll about do it. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. I'll catch y'all next time. Remember, hold that dream.